When seagull breathes on the plant takes in CO2 and gives out oxygen. Aaron takes in oxygen and gives out CO2. This is the breathing and respiration cycle.
It's so hot. It's so cold.
Even though Seagull was cold and warm in the different pictures, he maintained a stable body temperature because of homeostasis. He maintained this stable body temperature because of the shivering in the cold temperatures and the sweating in the warm temperatures. While Seagull is doing push-ups, he is perspiring because he is maintaining a stable body temperature.
CO2 in the atmosphere is used by plants by a process known as photosynthesis. The plants are then eaten by primary consumers, and once the primary consumers die, they are decomposed into the ground. These are known as fossil fuels. The fossil fuels are then used by human activity, which then are recycled back into the atmosphere.
The grass is a producer. It uses the sun's energy to get food, and the worm is a primary consumer as it is eating the grass, as we are showing below.
Yes. Are there two kidneys?
Yes. What's wrong with his purse?
He's sweating. He's got a horrible disease.
Parker is eating the worm below because he is a secondary consumer.
Wait, no. How do I
and the worm is a primary consumer. That is how energy through the food web is transferred. The grass has the most energy, and when the worm eats the grass, it only consumes 10% of the energy that was there before, because as the food web goes on, the amount of energy decreases.
What's the unit called?
As Chris is eagerly eating the M&Ms, his body is doing a lot of work. First of all, he swallows it, and it goes through his mouth to a small canal called the pharynx, and then down to a larger tube to the esophagus, and the esophagus leads it to the stomach where the nutrients are absorbed, and for further absorption it goes to the small intestine, and then to make it so it is able to be waste removal, it goes to the large intestine, and eventually it goes down to
The similarities between a plant cell and animal cell is that they both have a nucleus, they both have a Golgi apparatus, they both have cell membranes, and they both have mitochondria. The differences are the plant cell has a cell wall and a cell membrane, but the animal cell only has a cell membrane.
For the first human, one noticeable feature is that the head is much smaller than the more modern day humans. Another noticeable feature is that the eyebrow ridge is also larger than the modern day humans. The jaw is also longer and the teeth are more specialized. As the human evolved, the skull got larger and the eyebrow ridge began to shrink. Then the humans grew a cranium keel, which muscle attached to, giving them a stronger bite. Unfortunately, this species died off and turned into then the early Homo sapien came along, and the skull is much larger and the jaw is much smaller. The eyebrow ridge is also reduced in size. The erectus the eyebrow ridge is still getting smaller, the skull is still getting larger, and the jaw is still getting smaller as it evolves. Now, on our modern day human, we have less specialized teeth, a big skull, small eyebrow ridge. This is a desert biome. They are dry and get an annual precipitation of 25 centimeters. Their soil is rich in minerals. Some animals are gray foxes and mountain lions. It is a tropical rainforest. They are hot and wet year-round. Some animals are sloths, jaguars, and parrots. It is a tundra biome. They have permafrost, meaning the layer of soil is frozen year-round. There are strong winds and low precipitation. Some animals are Arctic foxes, caribou, and lemmings.
Can you find the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? Let's see if Siegel can.
Well, I know the difference. A prokaryote doesn't have a nucleus, and a eukaryote does. A prokaryote is mostly on single-celled organisms, and a eukaryote is on multi-celled organisms. The receiving end of the neuron contains dendrites, which are branch-like structures which help receive messages from the axon terminals. The receiving end is able to connect to other neurons because of the branches. The sending end of the neuron has small defined branches which are able to connect to the dendrite well because the dendrite has many branches.
To send messages. The structure meets function of the cell membrane because the lipid bilayer and the protein make it semi-permeable. The protein helps move the materials across the cell. One example of a material that moves across the cell is sugar.
The heart is structured so that the blood can go into the heart, which it goes into the supravena capa, down to the right atrium, to the right ventricle, where it turns and goes up to the pulmonary artery, where it then goes to the lungs and picks up oxygen, then goes down to the pulmonary vein, to the left atrium, then to the left ventricle, to the aorta, where it is dispersed